Welcome to episode number 37 of the Between Two Brands podcast. I am still your host, Bill Petrie, and playing a little hurt today, fighting through a cold, but you know what? Something we all have to do from time to time. So, no complaints for me because, frankly, I'm really excited about this episode. Got a super special guest that we'll get to in just a few minutes, but that's got me energized this morning, and I'm pumped. I'm also pumped to pay a bill or two. So, let's go ahead and do that before we get rolling today. Folks, there is so much good coming out of our friends over at Bell Promo these days. Here's just a few things. Lowest minimums in the industry? Yeah, you can Bell Promo that. Deepest inventory around? Yeah, we can Bell Promo that too. 5-star and A+ service? Oh, yeah, you can Bell Promo that. 2-day production on most of their products? Of course, you can Bell Promo that. Now, if that weren't enough, and darn tootin' it should be, the good folks at Bell Promo have a few other things to share. Made in the USA merchandise? Oh, yeah, you can Bell Promo that. And free shipping on tech and apparel products? Oh, yeah. You can Bell Promo the heck out of that. Head over to bellpromo.com to see all their amazing merchandise and feel confident that when your client asks you to create branded merchandise that's available with low minimums, 2-day production, you can tell them, yeah, you can Bell Promo that. All right, like I said, got a pretty special guest today, and that's kind of my focus right now. And I had something planned this morning for the preamble, but that changed yesterday. Yesterday was Tuesday, September the 23rd, and had some news drop in the industry. And I thought I'd kind of talk about that a little bit. It's almost too big not to, because there was a huge lawsuit in the industry yesterday, filed by top 40 supplier S&S Activewear against tech service provider PromoHunt. Now, what they're doing, S&S is alleging some unauthorized data scraping, trademark infringement, and violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act. Now, what they're essentially accusing PromoHunt of doing is misusing S&S's proprietary data and trademarks, misleading users into believing a partnership existed, and disrupting S&S's contractual relationships with its customers. It also went on to say they interfered with S&S's digital property by overlaying its price comparison tool onto the site. Now, what they've been seeking to do is have PromoHunt terminate all uses of S&S trademarks, proprietary data, and website overlay tools. Now, allegedly, SNS sent a cease and desist order to PromoHunt on April 2nd of this year, informing the company it was encouraging users to violate SNS's terms of use and infringing on said intellectual property. Now, SNS claims that PromoHunt is continuing to access or is attempting to access its computer system. Now, for those of you who don't know, PromoHunt is essentially a browser extension service that over, I think, almost 4,000 distributors use, both solopreneurs, medium-sized distributors, even large distributors. Now, Tony Hunt, Promo Hunt's the name of the company. Tony Wavering, who is the founder and CEO, and in full disclosure, a friend of mine. He had said, "We cannot comment on pending litigation. We take these matters seriously, deny any wrongdoing, and remain committed to serving our distributor community." And of course, because it is litigation, there was no comment from SNS. Now, like I said, I know Tony. I've known Tony for years. Uh, Part of the original Promo Cares board, Tony and I served on that when Promo Care started with Danny Rosen and Roger Burnett, and so it's kind of, I hate seeing anybody get sued. I don't pretend to know all the facts here, and so I'm not going to say this is horrible and this is wrong and all that. What I do know is that Tony Wavering is one of the most ethical humans I know. He's one of the most honest people I know, and his browser extension has provided a tremendous service, not only to distributors, but I would argue it helps sell merchandise for suppliers. It's a great, excuse me, great tool. To me, again, this is a surface. This is me kind of shooting from the hip. I don't know all the facts, but it seems very overreaching from SNS. And you want to talk about David versus Goliath? I mean, SNS has over $1 billion in revenue, and I don't know what Promo Hunt's revenue is, but it's significantly less. Let's put it that way. The big issue from SNS seems to be that price comparison tool, which is part of that Promo Hunt overlay. And honestly, I thought, the first time I ever heard of a price comparison tool was outside of our industry when Progressive Insurance put on their website, here are our prices, and we have a tool within our website that will show you Geico, State Farm, Allstate, all their competitors, a price comparison tool. Sometimes Progressive would be cheaper. Sometimes they wouldn't. And should State Farm then sue Progressive Insurance for their price comparison tool? I guess I don't see the harm that Promo Hunt has done to SNS's business. And again, I don't know all the facts, but if you ask me, and you didn't, but you're going to get my opinion anyway, I would, like I said, I would argue that Promo Hunt actually enhances SNS's ability to sell merchandise to distributors and other suppliers as well. So, like I said, I don't have a dog in the hunt, and yes, that pun was most certainly intended, but it's going to be interesting to watch because I think it has some far-reaching implications. And of course, Tony being another solopreneur service provider, yeah, makes me nervous a little bit. I'm not going to lie. So hopefully gets resolved without too much kerfuffle and gets resolved to everybody's satisfaction. But just some big news yesterday. I felt almost compelled to talk about. In fact, I was so compelled, I did talk about it. All right, before we get to my guests, let's pay one more bill, shall we? Hey, do you know what season it is? That's right. It's business valuation season. Now, or perhaps you don't know what your company's worth. Maybe it's been more than a few years since your last valuation and you need a new benchmark to see if your company is increasing in value. Heck, you might want to just see if it's time to sell your business. Now, regardless of the reason, Jamie Watson and the experts at Certified Marketing Consultants, they have extensive experience in the world of branded merchandise and the financial knowledge necessary to provide a fact-based valuation of your business. Simply email them at info@certifiedmarketing.com for a confidential discussion today. All right, let's get to my very special guest. I'm pumped. I hope you are too. My guest today absolutely needs an introduction, so I'm going to give you one. He is a 2025 graduate of the University of Alabama with dueling degrees in sports media and marketing. During his time at school, he served as a marketing and communications intern for the Tennessee Golf Association and was a social media manager for the University Recreation Department, refining his storytelling and content production skills. He's now a sports broadcaster and content producer for Radio Alabama, a broadcasting company that serves Alabama with 7 over-the-air radio signals, along with hyper-local news and sports. He is currently focused on building the brand of the Wetumpka Sports Network while co-hosting the weekly Tribal Talk featuring The Bear Woods Show and acting as a sideline reporter and occasional color commentator for the Wetumpka football team. He's also a passionate sports fan, music, and golf. He also happens to be my youngest son, so please join me in welcoming the one and only Mitch Petrie. Mitch, thank you for taking the time to be on the podcast today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I just have a quick note about that introduction, real quick, and that would be one thing. First of all, I'm not your youngest son; I'm the same age as your other son. We are twins, just in case anybody out there didn't know. And then we actually own 13 radio stations. We have 8 high school sports networks that operate individually.
Well, I appreciate the correction on the latter. I just went off what was on the website, so I apologize for that. As far as the former, you are my youngest son by 45 minutes. So, yes, you are twins, but you are still technically the youngest son. So, too bad, so sad. Okay, do you have something you want to talk to me about before I have some questions so I can get to know you a little bit better?
Oh yeah, for sure. This is in the sporting news. Just happened yesterday, or actually Monday, I believe. So 2 days ago, at the time of recording this. But Bruce Pearl stepped down as the head coach of the Auburn basketball team after leading them to 2 Final Fours in the last 6 years, and his son was named as the replacement. And well, timing just a little bit interesting. It's not generally the time you see coaches step down, especially in the college world. So just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah. The timing is bizarre. You know me. I do not follow the basketball very closely. It's not one of my favorite sports. I recognize the athleticism in the competition. It just doesn't entertain me very much. Um, but Bruce Pearl, having the success he had at Auburn, I think when anybody steps down from a job where they've been historically very successful and there's no threat of losing your job, I think one of two things. One, on the hopefully okay, maybe there's a health issue. I always worry that is there a health issue with Bruce Pearl that Again, that's not our business if there is, but if he's is he battling something that he needs to focus on, or his family, maybe his wife's going through something or someone in the family. But then I also think, okay, what scandal's about to drop, and he's just getting out ahead of it. So I don't know what it is. It usually comes out in the wash. It'll come out in the next couple days, I think. But I do find it interesting that his son is immediately named successor. So that tells me this has been planned for a while at Auburn. Now you follow college basketball far more than I do. What do you think about it? What do you immediately think of when you see someone, kind of a surprise announcement, at least if you ask me?
Well, so while it is a surprise, it kind of had been talked about in college basketball circles and especially in Auburn circles that was something he was considering. Originally, the thought behind it was that he was going to step down as basketball coordinator and follow the Tommy Tuberville path and run for the U.S. Senate seat that's open in 2026 here in Alabama. While he has officially announced that he's not going to be running, I do think that the timing, like you said, is a little bit suspect. I think, generally when you have a coach that's stepping down, they're going to step down in April. So they give not only the school time to put together a committee to find a new coach, but also so that coach can come and implement their process, whatever that may be. But I think the reason he stepped down so late, I mean, yesterday or Monday was the first day of official NCAA fall practice period for basketball. So I think he kind of intentionally put Auburn in that pinch to where really the only option was to name his son as the successor because he already knows the program. He's been there for 6 years. He's been the associate head coach for the last five. I mean, like it kind of just it kind of left Auburn with no other choice other than to give his son the job.
Yeah, and I wonder how this affects those kids, right? With the transfer portal being just so rampant in all college sports, how many of those kids who went to Auburn specifically to play for Bruce Pearl feel like they've been duped, and now they really don't have any recourse but to play for his son?
Yeah, and then Dylan, like you said, the transfer portal. This is so late in the season that the transfer portal won't open, even though there has been a coaching change. So I think that they're kind of just stuck with what they got. And I think this offseason, after this basketball season, will be very telling in terms of transfers and if Auburn can stay in the top 10 recruiting, which they have been in the last few years.
Yeah. All right. No, good topic. Anything else you want to bring up before I launch into my five very easy questions for you?
No, I'd just love to let everybody out there know that the Los Angeles Chargers are 3-0 and 3-0 in the AFC West, first place. That's pretty cool.
That is the worst brag of all time in the first quarter of the season, but if that makes you feel better, that's great. As I said in the introduction, Mitch is a huge, huge sports fan. Just so everybody knows, there's a standard form I send to folks when they're going to be on the podcast, and I ask them, just give me a brief bio. Mitch's was, if you don't know me, you can't introduce me, or something like that. So basically, he called me out immediately. So Mitch, I've got five questions for you. There's some questions within the questions. To be transparent with everybody, Mitch has no idea what I'm going to ask, which I love. So, Mitch, you ready to roll?
Let's do this thing.
Okay. You are one of the rare college graduates that's been able to use both your degrees in your role as a sports broadcaster and as a content, marketing person for Radio Alabama. And I know that this is very much of an entrepreneurial role for you in that you've been tasked with building the Wetumpka Sports Network brand from scratch. So, three questions here. Number one, and I'll just go one by one so you don't have to remember what I asked. Number one, what drew you to this opportunity?
Well, the thing that got my attention right out the gates is I talked to Jeremy Law. He's now my boss. He's the vice president of our company and president of our sports operations. So really focusing on that high school sports. So what really drew my attention to it is as long as I can remember, my dream has always been to do play-by-play commentary, and that's kind of what I'm doing now. I'm getting familiar with our setup, our process, and how that goes in terms of sideline reporting, setting up all the equipment and whatnot. But come basketball and baseball season, I'll be doing a lot of play-by-play commentary, and that's really what drew me to the role. Not only the opportunity to work in the local community, which is really fun. Franklin, where we're from, is it's growing, but it's still, kind of got that small town feel, and you get that here in Wetumpka, and that's something I really love. But outside of that, it was really just being involved in sports. I've always loved sports. Sports have always been a huge part of my life, and it's a blessing to be able to work in the sports world.
Yeah, 100%. And so what surprised you though, both good and maybe not so good about your first few months on the job? Because it's a big transition going from college where everything's, most things are taken care of for you. So I want to know what surprised you both good and bad about the first few months of your job.
Well, we'll start off with the bad. First, I lived in the fraternity house for the last 2 years at school, so
Oh,
really
we'll
kind
get
of
to
get,
that.
but really,
Don't you worry. We're going to get to that.
but as I assume most guys my age and in their early 20s, figuring out how to cook and how to get complacent in the kitchen is really a challenging thing. So that's something I've been working on, and it is maybe a little bit more difficult than I had anticipated. Not necessarily the cooking aspect, but what I really struggle with is like when you're cooking multiple things at once, like timing it all up so it's ready at the same time. Like that's a big thing for me. And then also like in terms of the entrepreneurial role, it's way more, it's a little bit different in terms of college where, you get handed assignments, right, or whatever, and you know what you have to do. Whereas, in this entrepreneurial role, we're starting something from scratch. So there's not always necessarily something like a task that I have to get completed. So it's kind of going out of my way to find things that I can do to help us, help the brand, and help us continue to grow and be successful.
Yeah, I love that answer both ways. The fact that you do have to that entrepreneurial thing of you have to figure out what to do because in any entrepreneurial role, and I know this, there's always something to do. It's finding that something to do and the right thing to do that moves things forward. And as far as the cooking, now when I've been cooking barbecue, my answer is when dinner going to be ready. It's done when it's done.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that one now.
Yeah. No, so last question in this section. So as parents, your mom and I get to watch you do your job. And that's not something a lot of parents get to do. Like, for example, when your brother graduates in December from Mississippi State, he goes on to his job as a project manager for Garney Construction. We're not going to be able to watch him project manage. So it's different. Does it ever feel weird knowing your mom and I are watching you work?
No, not really. I feel like you guys have always been like, a huge part of my life, of course. So, I've always talked to you guys about work and stuff. So I kind of view it as a really cool thing, to be honest with you. That's not an opportunity that a lot of people get to be able to watch their kids work. And I like it because, I always know I got somebody support me watching. And I like that. And it's nice to be able to talk to you guys too about it. Like I call you guys those who don't know, after every Friday night football game, I always call my parents on the way home, just talk about the broadcast, talk about how the game went, all that type of stuff. But it's been really nice to be able to do that, and always feel supported when you guys are watching. So I love it, and it's not weird, because there's a bunch of random people I don't know watching me. So
Right.
knowing that I do have friends and family watching is a little bit reassuring always.
Yeah, it's fun for me and your mom, and I will tell you, I know more about the Wetumpka Indians, Coach Bear Woods, and all of Alabama high school sports than I ever thought I would. So I love that. All right, let's go to the next question. You recently started selling sponsorships as you build the brand for Wetumpka Sports. As a Gen Zer, I'm very curious as to your sales approach. Can you share how you approach a modern media buyer so that they fully understand the value of what you're trying to sell?
Yeah, absolutely. So with us in Radio Alabama, a huge thing is we're focused on being live and local. Radio stations across the country, while people may often think that radio is a dying medium, 9 in 10 Americans still listen to some form of audio programming every single day. And even deeper than that, 7 in 10 Americans listen to a radio station in their car. It's still in the car is by far the most consumed form of media. So I think there's kind of a misconception that radio is a dying medium. While it certainly may not be booming like the way streaming is, it's not dying at all. It's just finding your niche, and that's kind of what we've done, is be able to really be a local presence in our communities, right? So not only getting sponsors that are local, right, that serve the communities that we're a part of, but also going through and really helping them understand what we do, right? It's not just broadcasting football games. We're there to promote the school and the student athletes and all the great things that go on at the high school level. We talk about volleyball on our show. We broadcast volleyball senior night. We talk about flag football all the time, which is the first year that the Wetumpka has had a girls flag football program. So really just helping our sponsors not only understand what we're doing, but understanding how what we do can help them, put them in spaces that they already are and they want to be, in people in their community. So, and then in terms of my actual sales approach, I always tell people, we're not here just to take your money, right? We're not here to just sell radio sponsorships. You're going to help us grow, and we're going to help you grow at the same time. It's a mutually beneficial relationship. It's not just me selling something to you. It's us working together. It's a partnership.
I love that answer because it's almost because you are hyper local in smaller communities. It is I think what you guys do a lot of is almost a public service because a lot of people think it's just about football, right? That's the big revenue generating sport. But it's about, when I see you on Tribal Talk, you guys bring on the volleyball team, cross country. You talk about the other sports that really round out the entire offerings. And it creates this partnership of community outreach with your sponsors because they become aligned with something that's so deeply ingrained in the community. And I really love it.
Yeah, and it's done really, and it's really that local community, right? Do one way or another. It's not just becoming a sponsor of Wetumpka Sports Network. You're supporting something that the whole community believes in, and especially down here in the South. Friday Night Lights is a huge part of every local community, every small town. I mean, you got people that graduated 20 years ago showing up to just come support the team because that's what they're doing on Friday nights. And so it kind of creates this beautiful harmony of they're helping us do what we do, and we're helping put them in front of the people that really care about what we do. And as a result, they're going to go out and go support our sponsors that help support us.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So I mentioned earlier you're doing both sports broadcasting and building a brand for Wetumpka Sports. Which part of your job do you like better and why?
Um, I really like working with the high school. It's great. It's great to be able to talk to some of these kids who are really, kind of the same age I am. I call them kids, but I mean, there's only 3, 4, 5 year difference between us. So it's really nice to be able to connect with them, and it's really fun. They enjoy it a lot, and I enjoy it a lot too. I mean, sports are supposed to be fun, right? And like, of course, we're gonna be professional because where we are a company, this is what we do. But it's nice to be able to so being able it has been just a great blessing. It's something that I've really really enjoyed.
Yeah, no, awesome. All right, let's shift gears a little bit. I know personally you love golf with just about every fiber of your being. So I have a few questions here. What lessons has golf taught you that help you with your career?
A big thing that I worry about with golf, and it's helped me in my career too, is focusing on the task at hand. Right? It's you can't get hung up on something that may have gone wrong in the past. Like you hit a bad shot, you shank your drive off the tee. You can't sit there and meander and linger on that because that's gonna it's just gonna sit with you bad. You're not gonna hit another good shot off of that. You got to get that out of your mind. You've got the next shot in your hand. You maybe have a 5 iron into the green instead of an 8 iron, whatever it may be. But like it's a lot about playing the cards you're dealt as well, because in golf, there's so many things you can't control. The only thing you can control is your approach and your swing. The rest of that is just up to whatever happens. So I think that's something I've lived my whole life around is, just control the things you control. And that's something that you taught me from a young age is only focus on what you can control. And golf goes hand in hand with that. And the same goes for business. Like you can't, when you're going to a sales meeting, you can't always control how the client may respond to some of your pitches. The only thing you can control is your response to their possible objections or whatever it may be. But I think golf and business go hand in hand in that regard in terms of staying focused on the present and controlling what you can control.
I love that. So it likely goes without saying you can outdrive me. We've played golf many times. But do you ever think you're going to be able to beat me?
Well, I think you can look back to our last match at Franklin Bridge, where I believe I won by a few 9 or 10 strokes. So I don't know exactly what you're referring to in this regard because I have already beaten you and will continue to do so in the future.
I have no recollection of that. You permanently borrowed your grandfather's Scotty Cameron putter from me. Describe the guilt you feel for this not so petty theft.
Yeah. So first of all, I wouldn't call it petty theft. Must I remind you that at the point of when this club was entered into our family's possession, you hadn't played golf in 8 years, whereas I was playing about 3 times a week. So it was really not only was it not petty theft, it was actually a gift. You said, why don't you go ahead and take it? You're going to use it far more than I will, and I do use it far more than you do. So I mean, I think your old man brain might be confusing with you a little bit, but just want to clarify that.
Okay, well, consider your clarification inaccurate, but thank you for clarifying anyway. All right, last question. You love the University of Alabama as much as I love the greatness that is Texas A&M University. So I have a few questions about your time in Tuscaloosa, okay? What's your favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant has got to be Jack Brown's. It's a local chain here throughout Alabama. They just have they only do burgers and fries, but they've just got great burgers, Wagyu burgers all around. And they also have for those who are interested in weird and funky beers, they have a great beer menu. You've got about 70 different beers there, so it's always fun to go there and get a burger and then get a little wacky beer.
There you go. Who doesn't love? Okay, what's your favorite sports memory of your time in Tuscaloosa?
Um, God, there's a lot to go between the Final Four run was really cool. I was a huge fan of that. Especially since Alabama had always had a lot of success in football, but really didn't start having a lot of success in basketball until a year or two before I got there when we hired Nate Oates. So that was really cool to go into the first ever Final Four in the history of the school. That was a really cool thing to be a part of. And then, of course, there's two more. I'll kind of loop these in together. But in terms of football, beating Georgia at home, that Ryan Williams touchdown, that was one of my favorite memories. To this day. This game, I didn't think we were going to win heading into it, even though we were at home. And we came out in the first half, really bossed them around, let Georgia get back in the game. And then 5 minutes to go in the game, Ryan Williams, 75-yard touchdown. That is probably the loudest I've ever heard Bryant-Denny Stadium. And then I've been lucky enough to go to an Iron Bowl at Jordan-Hare. And I was at that game in 2024 when, 2023, when Jalen Milroe hit Isaiah Bond at the back of the end zone, 4th-31. And that was a really cool experience. And I had a great time being in Jordan-Hare for that one.
Okay, great answer. Favorite statue outside Bryant-Denny Stadium?
There's a bunch of good ones. The Saban one is iconic. He's clapping right there. It almost looks like he's yelling at somebody, which was very Saban-esque. But I'll probably say my favorite is the bear statue. He's just standing there, calm, cool, and collected. They've got the hat on him, which of course, and he's got a newspaper rolled up in his hand, which is a really small but noticeable detail, and something I'm a big fan of. Just you always see videos of bear, smacking that newspaper in his hand to get a point across. So I thought that was a really nice touch.
Okay, love it. Favorite bar, not underage. Your favorite bar in Tuscaloosa?
It's definitely got to be Houndstooth. I'm a big Houndstooth guy. In terms of Tuscaloosa, you always had to deal with cover at bars. And Houndstooth is one of those places that not only never had cover, but this really is a true sports bar. They've got about 40 TVs all across the wall, and so it was a great place to go, just to hang out. A little bit of a lower key vibe, not as much of a party environment, more so relaxed. You got some pool tables in there as well, so just a great spot to set up shop, play some pool, watch some ball, and have a few beers with your buddies.
Yeah, the only problem with Houndstooth, and I agree with you on Houndstooth, is that it's a Pepsi place, and someone who drinks Jack Daniels and a cola of my choosing, my cola of choosing is never ever Pepsi. Okay, what is your favorite home loss by the Crimson Tide football?
I don't have a favorite loss. I could say probably the most memorable loss in my time in Tuscaloosa was when we lost to Texas. None of the losses are my favorite. I despise them all and really can't stand them. But that was a game we were lucky enough to go together and had some great seats. Yeah. And that's when I realized Jalen Milroe was not the prototypical Alabama quarterback that we had seen in years past, in terms of Bryce Young, who was there for my first 2 seasons, and then before that you had Mac Jones and Tua. So that's kind of the game where you really saw that Jalen Milroe is way more of a running quarterback, a Lamar Jackson-esque type of guy, or Blake Sims, even if you want to go back to Alabama quarterbacks, but just not your prototypical pocket passer that you'd seen in Saban offenses for the 6-7 years leading up to that.
Awesome. Hold on. Mitch, I've just been handed a rapid fire. I didn't plan this, but I got to do a rapid fire with you. So I'm just going to add, for those of you who don't know, I'm just going to ask Mitch an either or. There's no wrong answers here. Just get Mitch's opinion on things, right? Mitch, you know how to play this, right?
Absolutely.
All right. Try not to screw it up like Kirby. Okay. All right. Just first thing that comes to mind, no wrong answers. Joe Namath or Ken Stabler?
Ken Stabler.
Okay. Whataburger shake, banana pudding or Dr. Pepper?
Dr. Pepper, easy.
Bucky's treat, the homemade potato chips or the beef jerky?
Got to go with the jerky here.
Okay. Jam band, widespread panic or pigeons playing ping pong?
I like them both, but I'll go pigeons playing ping pong.
Okay. Announcer, Joe Buck or Chris Fowler?
Joe Buck.
Okay. Living in the fraternity house or living on your own in your own apartment?
Probably living in the fraternity house.
Okay. Gymnasism. Hello, friends, or a tradition unlike any other.
Hello, friends. It's an easy one.
Coach Bear Bryant or Coach Nick Saban?
I'll go Coach Saban.
Okay. Van Halen lead singer David Lee Roth or Sammy Hagar?
Mm, that's a hard one. I'm gonna go David. I know that's maybe a not your answer, but that's who I'll go.
No, it's a hard one because I look, I love both eras. So it's all right. All right, last one. This is the most important one, Mitch, especially given we have a very important football game this weekend. Texas A&M or Auburn. We all know your girlfriend goes to Auburn, so that's going to factor into it, but Texas A&M or Auburn, very simple.
Um, I think Marcel Reed and the Fighting Army Aggies get it done.
All right, all right. I love it. Hey, Mitch, thanks for joining me today. Before we say goodbye, I want to thank our sponsor. Huge thanks to our friends over at Bell Promo for sponsoring this platinum level broadcast. When you're looking for the lowest minimums, deepest inventory, 5-star and A+ service, you know you can Bell Promo that. Mitch, thanks so much for taking the time. I hope you had a good time. We'll have to do it again sometime in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, and thanks to Bell Promo for being such gracious sponsors.